Welcome, Commanders, to Starfleet Academy for Star Trek Fleet Command. I am your instructor, Captain Pike, and today we'll be doing a crew analysis of Gossa. Gossa was introduced into Star Trek Fleet Command with the February 2023 arc, Assimilation Part 2. On release day, he had a free path to obtain him, but he's going to take a long time to acquire this way. We will discuss ways you can acquire Gossa later in this video. But first, let's take a look and see who Gossa really is. Gossa is a rare officer. He is a member of the Unimatrix 12 group in-game, and his race is Borg. He is of the Officer Division Engineering. He will provide synergy to members of the Unimatrix 12 group at varying levels based on division uniqueness. Because he has no captain ability, he receives no synergy from the group. Gossa's lack of captain ability seems fitting for a Borg drone, since they are servants to the collective. I do find it interesting that our liberated Borg in the game have their Borg classifications, but Gossa, being a drone, has an individualistic classification like Locutus. His officer ability is programmed to evolve. When fighting against the Borg solo Armada at the start of each round, reduces target's critical damage by 5% for one round. This will go up to 20% at Commander. Since his division is engineering, he will provide full synergy to commanders or science division officers, but only 1/2 synergy to other engineers like 5 of 11. The reduction in percent of critical damage from Borg solo armadas or BSAs is nice, but only 5% per round. With no accumulation, this seems a bit weak, but we will take anything we can get. This officer ability is going to have different value for each commander when selecting officers for their ships in their BSA fleet. I like the critical damage reduction, but it's only limited to one round. It's restricted to BSAs. The amount seems pretty small, even for when he's at Commander. Although some players might find value in this ability, but with its restricted use and already available crew, I don't think his ability will get much use. Gossa's below the deck ability, it's closer to perfection. While fighting player's ship with Assimilate, Gossa increases the ship's armor, shield deflection, and dodge by 125% each round, cumulative. Gossa's below the deck ability is all PvP focus, so if you are a PvE player, it's not going to have much value for you. Gossa is 100% dependent on something creating the Assimilate condition, and I think this is fitting as he is a drone of the collective. There are a couple things to like about his below the deck ability. The 125% increase to mitigation at base, and that it is cumulative, is a huge potential depending on the number of rounds for battle. It also doesn't consume a bridge officer slot. Being that this is a below the deck ability, we don't have to waste an officer slot to get this capability. What we should consider though when using Gossa, he is dependent on something creating the Assimilate condition, and triggering the Assimilate condition may mean that we need to consume 2 below the deck slots to support him. Gossa's traits are Assimilated and Thief. There are 6 ATAs, away team assignments, that require the Assimilated trait: Collective Bargaining, Geothermal Conditioning, Investigate Borg Signal, or Contractor, Salvage Operation, and Warzone Reclamation. There are 10 ATAs that require Thief trait, and almost all of them are Ops 50+. Alliance Exocomp ATAs are all for level 50s. There are Alliance Exocomp for attack, up to MK3 for 3 total exocomps. There's Alliance exocomps for defense up to MK3 for 3 total exocomps. There's also Alliance exocomps for health up to MK3 as well for another 3 exocomps, totaling 9 altogether. The only sub 50 ATA is Smuggle Cybernetics. As you can see by the list, neither of his traits are used on more than one ATA or dual traits. This means you will not get maximum yield for his traits if you invest trait XP into him. I would rate him a medium for interest in use for ATAs only because of the number of ATAs that he could be used on, and this rating is conditional based on your operation level. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide his value for the available ATAs. So let's put Gossa to work. First, we'll be taking a look at his officer ability and run him on some Borg solo armadas. We can't run Gossa as captain. We need to leverage his synergy. So, I will run 5 of 11, Borg Queen, and Gossa on my Coronar. 5 of 11's captain's ability is weaponry is irrelevant. 5 of 11 increases the shield deflection, armor, and dodge by 200% of the total health of all the officers. 5's officer ability is you will be assimilated. 5 of 11 increases the amount of resources dropped from hostiles by 20%. This goes up to 100% at commander. Gossa. When fighting against a Borg solo armada, at the start of each round, reduces target's critical damage by 5% for 1 round. This will go up to 20% at commander. Gossa only provides 200% synergy, as he is the same division class as 5 of 11, engineering. And then the Borg Queen. Her officer ability is Chaos into Order. While fighting against a Borg solo armada, upon receiving hull damage from an enemy shot, increase critical hit chances by 2% cumulative. This is at ensign, and it goes up to 7% at commander. The Borg Queen provides full synergy with 5 of 11, boosting 5 by 400%. Alternatively, we could run Dazok, and he will get full synergy on our bridge crew. His officer ability is Choke Point. While fighting against the Borg solo armada, increase all officer stats by 10% for the duration of combat. At commander, this will increase to 50%. 6 of 11 is another alternative. His officer ability is Defenses are irrelevant. When attacking an armada target, every time the ship hits the opponent with a weapon attack, 6 of 11 increases the accuracy, armor piercing, and shield piercing of the ship by 5% of the total attack of all officers on the ship. This ability is cumulative. At commander, the percentage increases to 40. 7 of 11 would also work well. His officer ability is Strengthen the Unimatrix. 7 of 11 will increase the health of every officer on the ship by 60% at ensign, going up to 100% at commander. This seems like a better choice over Dazok if we had the 2 to choose from. If none of these options are available to you, we could always default to our hull breach officer if available as well, such as Lorca or Gorkin. Check out our Borg Solo Armada video for tips on running the Borg Solo Armada loop and crew suggestions for all of your other ships. Alrighty, so let's take the BSA Tech Fleet out. As you can see here on the Coronar, we're going to be running the Borg anti-BSA crew. We've got 5 of 11, Borg Queen, and Gossa on the Coronar here. And we're going to go take out a 52 uncommon Borg Solo Armada. This is my standard Borg Solo Armada crew on my other 2 ships. The only thing that I've done different here is is added Gossa instead of 6 of 11 on my Coronar. As you can see here, we're not running any boosts. This is a straight up non-supported BSA, and we're going to go ahead and speed up the time a little bit just to help us get through this timer and see the results of the BSA. And here we go. Let's see the results of this setup here. Looks like we have a victory. Definitely expected that, of course. Pretty good results as far as damage on the ship. None of the ships took too much damage. I'm going to scout around real quick, see if there's another high value uncommon, just to start it off. But if I don't find an uncommon, then we'll just go ahead and go in here and look at the battle log. Okay, there's our 52 Borg solo Armada. All the ships did very well. So the key here is we're going to look at this battle log. We want to see when Gossa procs, and we need to see what kind of damage we take if the BSA throws a crit at us. So we should see Gossa fire off right on the first round, and there he is right there, minus 7% critical damage dealt. Now for one round, so he's only going to do a 7% reduction every round, and that's really not a whole lot, and it's just critical damage. So I'm not overly excited about Gossa as an ensign. The other thing is we really have to see this BSA throw a crit at us, and we haven't seen one yet, and we're rolling into round 2. Borg sphere is throwing shots at us, but we're just not seeing any crits. So to even really get a benefit out of having Gossa on the bridge, we've got to receive critical damage from the BSA, and it's just not happening here yet. So 2 more rounds to go. There's another shot from the sphere, no crit. We're still getting our procs from our crew, so looking good. Another shot, no crit. There's a crit right there, so we could take a look at these numbers and see if there's actually a reduction in the amount of damage that we took, but there hasn't been any other crits so far in this whole battle for us to even compare it to. So really a lot of shots from the BSA, only 1 crit for Gossa to mitigate 7% of the damage from. It just looks like we're not gonna, yep, we got 1 crit out of the whole thing. So, you know, we fared very well in the Borg solo Armada, but we just didn't get any crits. So it's subjective as to what the benefit's going to be running Gossa on your anti-BSA crew. Now let's take a look at Gossa's below the deck ability and test him out on some PvP activities. As we indicated earlier, Gossa is dependent on the assimilate condition. If you do not have something that will trigger the assimilate condition, then he's going to be useless to you in PvP. But if you do have something that does, like Dazak for example, then you have what you need to put Gossa to work for you in PvP. Adapt and assimilate. At the start of each round, if the opponent's whole health is below 95%, Dazak has a 40% chance to apply the assimilate condition to it for 4 rounds. While the ship is affected by the assimilate state, officer abilities have their effectiveness reduced by 25%. Gossa's below the deck ability is closer to perfection. While fighting a player's ship with assimilate, Gossa increases the ship's armor, shield deflection, and dodge by 125% each round cumulative. This will go up to 300% at commander. And with Dazak initiating the assimilate condition, we want to leverage the other crew that we may have that will trigger off of that condition as well. So in this case, we'll put in the Borg Queen, the one who is many. What this does is when fighting a player with Assimilate, Borg Queen increases the ship's armor piercing, shield piercing, and accuracy by 150% each round, cumulative. This will go up to 500% at Commander. Gossa will boost your mitigation, increasing it for each round of battle. This ability, even at 125%, is going to turn the scales in longer battle durations. I ran Gossa in a few different PvP scenarios. First, let's talk about how it'll work against bases. Being dependent on the assimilate condition, see a Gossa proc or activate is going to be hit or miss. And with base combat only lasting for a few rounds, there's a good chance, if the conditions are not right, that Gossa may not proc at all. The mitigation from Gossa against the base would be nice, even for one round, if you can get the assimilate condition to activate though. A couple things to consider if you want to try Gossa against bases. How soon can you get the assimilate condition to trigger? And how many rounds do you anticipate going in battle against the base? My final recommendation is to not worry about running Gossa until there is better support for the assimilate trigger in the game. Gossa against player ships is another story. With mitigation accumulating over a few rounds, you can see noticeable results. Once Gossa triggers his ability, your ship's survivability increases dramatically. In every PvP log I reviewed, Dazak did not trigger until at least round 2. And this is what we expected based on Dazak's below the deck ability description. And in many cases, he wasn't tripping until round 3 or 4. This will give your opponent's strike team opportunity to spin up their abilities. But once Dazak does trigger the assimilate state, Gossa, Borg Queen, and Dazak's below the deck abilities will activate, improving your ship's survivability. You can see this result in the battle log that's playing, and you will see it in your logs if you review them. So how do we obtain Gossa shards? His shards were easiest to obtain during the Assimilation arc part 2. But now that that arc is over, where are his shards? You won't find Gossa shards in the normal locations. It's not available through any of the options in the recruit section of the game. And there are no Borg faction for you to convert from currency towards shards like there are for augments, rogues, and Bajoran factions. To find Gossa shards, you will need to open your refinery, go to the Borg Tech section, and find the expansion cube tile. This will exchange the vinculum fragments and gives you a lottery chance to obtain Gossa shards along with some of other items. This works similar to exchange recruit tokens for crews in the crew recruit section of the store. Because of the 5-day cooldown of this exchange and RNG, it's going to be a long road to obtain him. So you'll need to fully engage in the Borg solo armadas or the BSA loop and expansion cubes to obtain him. And like Scopely has done with several of the other crew sets like Strike Team crews, I'm sure we will see him in upcoming events. He will also most likely appear in packs in the store. These will all be opportunities to accelerate obtaining Gossa if you have not already got him. In conclusion, Scopely increased the below-the-deck stats on Gossa a few days after release to improve his mediocre performance. This has greatly improved his below-the-deck ability, and it now shows potential. His below-the-deck ability, which is PvP, is his best ability right now. He does have multiple purposes in-game, but his officer ability against Borg solo armadas is a bit weak. Keep in mind that he has no captain ability. The fact that he is dependent on another resource to even use half of his abilities adds to the cost of him, in my opinion. Example: in game at release of Gossa, you will need both Gossa and Dazok to be able to use Gossa's PvP below the deck ability. As time passes, we'll see how he holds up and improves as new crews, ships, and potential triggers to activate the Assimilate condition are released into the game. Come visit us at our website and join us for further discussion on our Discord server linked in the video description. We hope we earned your thumbs up on the video and your subscription, and as always, we appreciate your sharing and comments. Live long and prosper, Commander. We hope to see you at Starfleet Academy.